Quebec. As you notice, we are trying to explain to you how is working the emergency mechanism under the Basel Convention. This emergency mechanism, I will try to inform you what is the emergency in a very simple manner. The decision that established the mechanism, that is the decision of the COP5, decision 5/32. The interim guidelines established in the COP6. What to do in the case of an incident by the country, the standard form required by the parties that was approved at the COP9, and the contacts in case of an emergency. The emergency mechanism was established in the COP5 by an enlargement of the trust fund of the Basel Convention, the voluntary trust fund, and is in order to assist developing countries and countries with economies in transition in case of an incident linked with the transboundary movement of hazardous waste. And this fund, or the emergency mechanism supported by this fund, is located in our voluntary trust fund, and it has already funds apported or given by 8 countries. And we have this money available in case of an incident that occurs due to one case related to the transboundary movement of hazardous waste or other waste. The emergency mechanism was established in order to follow the requirement of several parties, and as I mentioned, it was established in the COP5 with a very specific use only for the case of an incident. That is the only time that has been used. Also was established in order to support the protocol when the protocol enters into force. Unfortunately, the protocol has not entered into force, and for that reason we cannot use that. And the third part of the emergency mechanism is in order to assist in enhancing the capacity of developing countries. In the case of an incident, that is the part A of the emergency mechanism, is to estimate the magnitude of damage occurred or damage that may occur and the measures needed to prevent that damage, to take appropriate emergency measures to prevent or mitigate the damage, and also to help find those parties and other entities in a position to give the assistance needed. This third part normally is done by the Secretariat. We act as a place in order to liaise with other countries, with other entities, with the mainly developed countries that have the capacity to assist developing countries to deal in case of if one incident occurs. The emergency mechanism also, as I mentioned, it has the third part is to develop the capacity of developing countries in order to prevent and also to assist them in prevention of accidents and giving the information in order that we don't repeat the case of accidents that occurred in the 80s or the 90s or even in 2006, as the case of Cote d'Ivoire that our colleagues from the Joint Environmental Unit will mention it to you. The mechanism was established in COP5, but COP6 put it like the procedures in order to use the mechanism that are very detailed was adopted by decision 614 in COP6 in 2002. These interim guidelines are still valid, and they are available in our website in this site, specifically site that we created a section on the emergency fund. As I mentioned, it provides a very detailed information how to assess who can apply it, in which case you can use the emergency mechanism. And as I mentioned at the beginning, it's only case of incidents related with the transboundary movement of hazardous waste. This is the place where you can find the guidelines. There are called interim guidelines that are still valid till today, as also mentioned in the last decision taken just recently in May, at the beginning of May. What to do in case of an accident? The only eligible parties to use the emergency mechanism is developing countries or countries with economies in transition. They need to fill it the standard form, I will show in a second, and following the procedures already detailed in the interim guidelines. It means you need to take into account who can apply it and for which cases is mainly in the decision 532. The details that are contained in the interim guidelines and you need to send to the Secretariat the standard form by email or by fax. The standard form is available in all languages of the United Nations, in Arabic, in Spanish, in English, in French, in Russian, and this is available also in our website for you to download and to use as a Word document. This is the form that is available, and the information that you need to fill it according to the interim guidelines mentioned in the decision 614. To whom you need to send that information? You need to send it to us, to the Secretariat. This is the emails and the telephone. If needed, you can also contact us and we can give the fax, but more or less we are ready to receive that by email. There are also websites that can give you more information. It's our website, the Basel Int, is the convention, is the website of the convention, of the Basel Convention. Also, there is the website of the UNEP OSHA, of the colleagues of the joint unit. Also, they established recently, and they launched on 15, 16 of May, the Environmental Emergencies Center. You can also get a lot of information that is very useful for you in order to address one environmental emergency in the e-center that is available. A lot of information there for the colleagues. In our case, in the Basel, we have a section called Emergency Fund. Thank you very much, and we're ready for questions from you. This is my contact details, my email, and you can, if you have any more detailed questions, you can send it to me. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Nelson, for your presentation. Now I'll pass the floor to our next presenter, Amelia Wallström. Amelia, the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much. So again, welcome also on behalf of the joint OCHA UNEP Environment Unit to this webinar. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about international response to environmental emergencies. In my presentation, I will first briefly outline the unit and our work, and then after that I will go through how to request international assistance through us, and then in the end of my presentation I will present a case study on how this has been done in the past, what kind of assistance we can provide. First of all, what do we mean by environmental emergencies? An environmental emergency is defined as a sudden onset disaster or accident resulting from natural, technological, or human-induced factors. And it can cause or threaten to cause severe environmental damage as well as harm to human health and or livelihoods. So we deal only with those environmental emergencies which also impact human beings and livelihoods. Also, we do not only deal with, for example, chemical accidents or technological disasters, but we also look at the environmental impact of natural disasters. So, for example, a tsunami or earthquake would give rise to large amounts of waste and debris, and that is also one issue that we are involved with. The joint UNEP OCHA Environment Unit consists of the technical expertise of the United Nations Environment Programme, combined with the humanitarian mandate and the humanitarian coordination of the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. And this allows for a prepared response to environmental emergencies. The joint UNEP OCHA Environment Unit is located within the Emergency Services branch of OCHA here in Geneva in Switzerland. The vision of the joint unit is that countries are better prepared, more resilient, and able to effectively respond to environmental emergencies. To this regard, we mobilize and coordinate a comprehensive response to emergencies in order to protect lives, livelihoods, ecosystems, and ultimately also future generations. The joint unit works in 3 different areas. The first one is environmental emergency response, which I will talk more about. Then we also work within the area of preparedness to environmental emergencies, and this can include issues such as looking at the institutional management within countries of environmental emergencies, how to integrate environment into disaster management plans and disaster risk reduction strategies, also looking into trainings and contingency planning. And the last topic where we work is environment in humanitarian action, where we aim to make humanitarian action and humanitarian programs and projects more sustainable and efficient by also including environmental aspects. So, for example, looking at water and waste management within camps and use of fuel wood and so on. The joint unit provides environmental emergency assistance and is the primary point of contact for all issues related to environmental emergencies. We can identify and mitigate acute negative impacts and also provide independent, impartial advice, practical solutions. We are by being part of OCHA, we are available 24/7 to mobilize assistance. And we also have the benefit of being able to deploy very, very fast, because like I said, we do not only, we as part of OCHA, we also respond to natural disasters. So for example, there we can be on the ground in less than 24 hours. We do not really work, we do work in the linking the first response to recovery, but we do not work in long-term development or recovery. Rather, we would be there in the response phase, and then we would advise and work together with partners to ensure that environmental aspects and these recommendations are then picked up. So, for example, when we look into the long-term follow-up actions, that would usually then be carried out by our partners within UNEP, for example, the Post-Conflict and Disaster Management Branch, or our colleagues in UNDP or other relevant UN agencies. So the joint unit can mobilize experts and equipment to the affected area. We respond through technical expert deployments. Usually, we are looking at fast deployment in the immediate phase. That's like 2 or 3 weeks. So detailed assessment, rapid assessment. We can also as part of these assessments, we can identify risks and impacts. We also have the access to an environmental assessment module that is provided through the Netherlands, which and using this, we can also take samples. So, for example, if there is a country which does not have access to its own expertise when it comes to sampling and assessment and labs, then we can also provide that service. Also, one of our strengths is that we have an access to a pool of international experts, and we work in cooperation with partners, standby partners. So we have standby partnership agreements with countries like the Netherlands, like Sweden, Switzerland, and many others. So this means that depending on the situation, we will be able to find the correct type of environmental expert, because of course it will depend a lot if we're talking about pesticides or fertilizers or heavy metals. Type of expertise you will need is different. Also, we can act as a connector to different donors and government and other organizations. So, for example, if there is a country that needs assistance but is not sure where exactly to go and request follow-up, then we can also help by identifying the correct partners who would be able to provide such support in the long term. So when would a country typically request assistance from the joint unit? Well, for example, this could happen if the national capacity is overwhelmed. So it does not necessarily have to be only developing countries. Like, for example, we had a mission to Japan last year, or not, already 2 years ago, in response to the Fukushima accident. Also, it might be a country in conflict. or if there is a need for an unbiased assessment, for example, if the country feels that that there are different stakeholders involved, and they want outside expertise. That might also be one of the reasons to request outside assistance. Also, for example, if we're talking about transboundary impacts, which impact several countries or going across borders, or like I said, if there is a need for specialized information or expertise or equipment which is not available within country, or if there is a need for overall coordination. And here I also want to point out that it's very important that we receive a request from the national authorities. So we respond to all requests, but it has to come from the member states. How do you then request assistance in the case of emergency? Like I said, we are part of OCHA, so you can always call the OCHA Geneva or New York duty officer. All the numbers are available online, and they are also here in the presentation. This person is always available 24/7. Also, if there are less urgent inquiries, you can always email the joint unit at ochaunep@un.org. So what kind of information would we typically need? Like I said, you can always just call or send an email. But like Nelson earlier explained, there is also a standard form for requesting emergency assistance from the Technical Cooperation Trust Fund of the Basel Convention. Also, when we receive requests that are not necessarily related to Basel Convention issues, we would ask for the same type of information. That is the details of the state requesting assistance, technical details of the incident, what has happened, where has it happened, what substances are we talking about, who is involved, who is our primary focal point, also what kind of emergency assistance is required and what is potentially available in-house within the country. This is just information that we need in order to understand better what kind of assistance we are looking at. So I will now just briefly describe one of the response missions that has to do with hazardous waste. I think the case is probably familiar to you. We're talking about the Probo Koala incidents in Côte d'Ivoire in 2006. Where hazardous substances were dumped from a vessel in August. In the beginning of September, the government of Côte d'Ivoire requested international assistance, and then a couple of days later, a United Nations Disaster Assessment and Coordination Team was also requested by the UN Humanitarian Coordinator in Abidjan to assist the UN and national authorities in coordination of the response to the crisis. So here we of course assist the national authorities, but we also provide advice to the UN within country to see what their response to the crisis should be and how they can best assist. So what subsequently happened? Through OCHA Geneva, the UNDAC team was mobilized and deployed. Also, the governments of the Netherlands and Switzerland provided additional environmental experts, and they were associated to the UNDAC team. The team then arrived in September and had meetings with the UN team in country and with national authorities, and also a team of French technical experts that were deployed to assist with the scientific analysis. They also brought with them some maps and information and made more maps and ones on ground. Also, they conducted site visits to many of the locations, and like I said, they were also there to advise the UN country team and the UN agencies within the country on medium and long-term actions to be undertaken. So here just some of the findings of the mission. Generally speaking, one should know that the UNDAC team was very well received, and it also assisted in analyzing the situation and supporting the coordination. Also, the UNDAC team was there to debrief the UN country team and participate in a press conference. Additionally, they also provided some maps and an analysis, which were subsequently then handed over to the company that was responsible for some of the cleanup. Okay. Yes. So here I just want to also underline what Nelson already mentioned, that we have the Environmental Emergency Center online, which is the one-stop shop to everything related to environmental emergencies. On this site, you will be able to find trainings. For example, we have one overall training on environmental emergency preparedness called Beyond Response, which is a 3-hour e-learning. Also, we are just about to finalize an e-learning on disaster waste management. And one thing which might interest you is an e-learning on industrial accidents, which we have prepared together with UNEP as well as UNEC, the Industrial Accidents Convention. Also on this site, as well as on our own site, you will also find mission reports and guidelines related to various topics. That's all from me. Thank you.